The slap echoed through the crowded restaurant. Everyone stared. Everyone recorded. I thought my life was over, but what they didn't know was that my brother was watching from the shadows. And when a billionaire decides to protect his sister, even the most powerful woman becomes powerless. What you're about to hear will shock you. Before I reveal how one family secret destroyed a woman's entire world, make sure to subscribe and hit the bell icon. Because this story has twists you'll never see coming. Let's dive in. My name is Harper, and 6 months ago I made a decision that would change everything. I walked away from my family's fortune, their expectations, and their world of privilege to prove something to myself. You see, when your last name is Sterling and your family owns half the tech companies in Silicon Valley, people assume you've never worked a day in your life. They think everything was handed to you on a silver platter. So I did something that shocked everyone who knew me. I got a job as a waitress at Elite Grand Restaurant, one of the most upscale dining establishments in the city. The irony wasn't lost on me that my family probably ate there more than I did growing up. But I needed to know who I was without the Sterling name, without the money, without the protection of my billionaire brother Daniel. Only the manager, Mr. Peterson, knew my real identity. I begged him to keep it secret, and he agreed, probably thinking I was just another rich kid going through a phase. But this wasn't a phase. I was determined to make it on my own, to prove that Harper Sterling could succeed as just Harper. The restaurant was always busy, especially during lunch hours when the city's elite would come to make deals and show off their wealth. I'd learned to navigate the demanding customers, the complicated orders, and the sometimes condescending attitudes. Most days, I actually enjoyed it. There was something satisfying about earning every dollar through my own hard work, but that Tuesday started differently. I could feel the tension in the air from the moment I clocked in. The other servers were whispering about a particular table that had just made a reservation. Madison Blake was coming in with her crew, and everyone knew what that meant. Madison Blake wasn't just wealthy, she was dangerous. She owned a chain of luxury boutiques and had her perfectly manicured fingers in every fashion deal that mattered. But more than that, she was known for her cruelty. She'd destroyed careers over minor inconveniences and had a reputation for treating service staff like they were beneath dirt. When she walked through those glass doors at exactly noon, the entire restaurant seemed to hold its breath. Madison was everything you'd expect from someone who'd never heard the word no in her life. Her platinum blonde hair was styled to perfection, her white designer dress probably cost more than most people's cars, and her smile was as cold as winter. Behind her followed her equally blonde companions, Sophia and Amber. They were like a pack of perfectly groomed wolves, all sharp edges and calculated cruelty. These women didn't just have lunch, they performed their wealth and status for everyone to see. They demanded the best table, of course, right in the center of the dining room where everyone could see them. As I approached with their water and menus, I could already feel their eyes judging everything about me, from my simple uniform to my lack of designer accessories. "Finally," Madison said without looking up from her phone. I was beginning to think this place had forgotten how to provide proper service. I smiled politely and introduced myself. "Good afternoon, ladies. My name is Harper, and I'll be taking care of you today. Can I start you off with any appetizers or drinks?" Sophia laughed, a sound like breaking glass. "Harper? How quaint. Sounds like a name someone gives their dog." The comment stung, but I kept my composure. I'd dealt with difficult customers before. "Would you like to hear about our specials today?" Madison finally looked up, and her eyes were ice cold. "What I'd like is for you to understand that we're not here to make friends with the help. We have important business to discuss. So just bring us 3 glasses of your most expensive champagne and try not to interrupt us every 5 minutes." I nodded and walked away, feeling their laughter follow me. In the kitchen, I took a deep breath and reminded myself why I was doing this. Every job has its challenges. Every workplace has difficult people. I could handle Madison Blake and her friends, but I underestimated just how cruel they could be. When I returned with their champagne, Madison immediately found fault with everything. The glasses weren't cold enough, the champagne wasn't the right vintage, the napkins weren't folded properly. Each complaint was delivered with increasing volume, ensuring that nearby tables could hear every word. "This is exactly what's wrong with this generation," Madison announced to her friends, loud enough for half the restaurant to hear. "No work ethic, no attention to detail. They think showing up is enough." Amber nodded eagerly. "I know, right? In our day, people actually cared about doing their jobs properly." Our day? These women were maybe 5 years older than me, but they spoke like they were royalty discussing peasants. The lunch crowd was at its peak now, over 200 people filling every table. Business executives, socialites, tourists with cameras, everyone who was anyone seemed to be there. I could feel eyes on us as Madison's voice grew louder and her complaints more personal. "Look at her," Madison said, gesturing at me like I wasn't standing right there. "Probably thinks she's too good for this job. Probably thinks she deserves better." "Well, let me tell you something, honey." She turned to face me directly. "This is exactly where you belong." My heart was pounding, but I kept my voice steady. "Ma'am, if there's anything specific I can do to improve your experience—" "What you can do," Madison interrupted, standing up now, "is learn some respect. Do you know who I am? Do you have any idea what I could do to your pathetic little career?" The restaurant had gone quiet. Conversations stopped. Even the kitchen seemed to pause. Everyone was watching, and many were holding up their phones. In the age of social media, public humiliations went viral in minutes. "I understand you're frustrated," I said quietly, trying to de-escalate the situation. "Let me get the manager." That's when it happened. Madison's hand flew across my face with a crack that echoed through the silent restaurant. The slap was so hard it knocked me sideways, and for a moment, I couldn't see straight. My cheek burned, tears sprang to my eyes, and the taste of blood filled my mouth. "Know your place," Madison hissed, her face twisted with rage. "You're nothing. You're nobody, and don't you ever forget it." The silence that followed was deafening. 200 people stared at us, phones recording everything, capturing my humiliation in high definition. Sophia and Amber were clapping and laughing like they'd just witnessed the best entertainment of their lives. "Did you see her face?" Sophia giggled. "Priceless." "Maybe now she'll learn some manners," Amber added, raising her champagne glass in a mock toast. I stood there, my hand pressed to my burning cheek, feeling smaller than I'd ever felt in my life. This wasn't just about the slap. This was about being stripped of my dignity in front of hundreds of people, being reduced to nothing more than an object for their amusement. Mr. Peterson rushed over, but the damage was done. Madison was already collecting her purse, preparing to leave like nothing had happened. "Send the bill to my office," she told him dismissively, "and next time, train your staff properly." As they walked out, still laughing and chatting as if they hadn't just destroyed someone's day, I realized that dozens of phones had captured everything. The videos would be online within minutes. By tonight, I'd be known as the slapped waitress to millions of strangers. I ran to the bathroom and locked the door, finally allowing the tears to fall. My cheek was already swelling and my pride was in pieces. I'd wanted to prove I could make it on my own, and instead I'd become a viral video of someone else's cruelty. But what Madison Blake didn't know, what no one in that restaurant knew, was that Harper the waitress had a family secret, and when you hurt a Sterling, especially when you hurt the little sister that Daniel Sterling would move mountains to protect, you don't just face consequences, you face destruction. That evening, I sat in my small apartment, watching the video of my humiliation spread across every social media platform. The comments were brutal. Some people defended me, but others seemed to enjoy watching someone get put in their place. My phone buzzed with calls from reporters wanting interviews, from strangers sending both support and harassment. Finally, I couldn't take it anymore. With trembling fingers, I dialed the number I'd been avoiding all day. "Harper?" Daniel's voice was immediately concerned. "I've been trying to reach you for hours. Are you okay?" The moment I heard my big brother's voice, the tears started again. "Danny, I'm so sorry. I didn't want you to find out this way." "Find out what?" "Harper, what's going on?" Through my sobs, I told him everything. About the job, about proving myself, about Madison Blake and her friends, about the slap that was now being watched by millions. I could hear the silence on the other end growing more dangerous with every word. She did what? Daniel's voice was quiet, but I knew that tone. It was the voice he used in boardrooms when he was about to destroy a competitor. She put her hands on you. Danny, please don't do anything crazy. I just want this to go away. Harper, listen to me very carefully. Are you hurt? Do you need medical attention? No, I'm fine, physically. But Danny, the video is everywhere. My face is everywhere. I just wanted to prove I could do this on my own. And now nothing. You proved exactly what I always knew about you. You're strong, you're capable, and you handled an impossible situation with more grace than that woman will ever have. But Harper, family protects family. Always. There was something in his voice that made me nervous. What are you thinking? I'm thinking that Madison Blake just made the biggest mistake of her very privileged life. Get some rest, little sister. Tomorrow is going to be a very interesting day. He hung up before I could protest, and I knew that whatever Daniel was planning, Madison Blake was about to learn what happened when you messed with the wrong family. I didn't hear from Daniel for 3 days, which should have been my first warning sign. My brother didn't go quiet unless he was orchestrating something big. The video continued to spread, but gradually the internet moved on to other outrages. I thought maybe the worst was over. I was wrong. On Thursday morning, my phone rang from a number I didn't recognize. "Miss Sterling?" a professional voice asked. I almost corrected him to say Harper, not Sterling, but something stopped me. "Yes?" "This is James Wong from Premier Investments. We're interested in discussing a potential business opportunity with you. Would you be available for lunch today at Elite Grand Restaurant?" My stomach dropped. Elite Grand. The scene of my humiliation. I don't understand. What kind of business opportunity? I think it would be better discussed in person. Shall we say 1 o'clock? Against my better judgment, I agreed. I spent the morning trying to figure out what Premier Investments wanted with a waitress, until finally I decided to look them up online. What I found made my blood run cold. Premier Investments was one of Daniel's shell companies. I arrived at Elite Grand with my heart pounding, not sure what to expect. Mr. Peterson looked surprised to see me not in uniform, but he directed me to a private dining room in the back. As I walked through the main dining area, I could feel eyes on me, whispers following in my wake. I was still the slapped waitress to these people. The private dining room was elegant and quiet, with floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the city. At the table sat a man in an expensive suit who stood when I entered. "Miss Sterling, thank you for coming. I'm James Wong." But before I could respond, another voice came from behind me. "Hello, little sister." I turned to see Daniel stepping out from behind a decorative screen, and my heart sank. "Danny, what are you doing?" "Protecting my family," he said simply, gesturing for me to sit down. "James, why don't you give us a moment?" The man nodded and left, closing the door behind him. Daniel sat across from me, and I could see something dangerous in his expression. "Danny, please tell me you're not planning something insane." "Define insane," he said with a smile that didn't reach his eyes. "Is it insane to make sure someone faces consequences for their actions? Is it insane to protect the people you love? What did you do?" Daniel pulled out his phone and slid it across the table. On the screen was a detailed dossier that made my blood run cold. Financial records, business documents, photographs, and a list of illegal activities that would make a federal prosecutor salivate. "Madison Blake," Daniel said calmly, "is not nearly as clean as she pretends to be. Her fashion empire is built on sweatshop labor. She's been evading taxes for years through fake charity donations. She's blackmailed competitors and threatened models who didn't comply with her demands. And those private parties she throws? Let's just say the FBI would be very interested in what happens there." I stared at the documents, my mouth falling open. "How did you get all this?" "I'm very good at what I do, Harper. And what I do is destroy people who threaten my family." "But Danny..." "No buts. That woman humiliated you in front of hundreds of people. She put her hands on you. She made you cry, and worse than all of that, she made you doubt yourself and your worth." His voice was getting harder. "I won't allow it." Before I could respond, there was a knock on the door. James returned, but he wasn't alone. Behind him walked Madison Blake herself, looking confused but trying to maintain her usual air of superiority. She was dressed in another expensive outfit, her blonde hair perfect as always. But something was different. There was tension in her posture, uncertainty in her eyes. She didn't recognize me at first, probably because she'd never really looked at me as a person. "Mr. Wong," she said in her practiced business voice, "I have to say, your call intrigued me. A potential investment in my boutiques could be exactly what I need to expand internationally." "Please, have a seat, Ms. Blake," James said professionally. "I believe you know my business partner." Daniel stood up, extending his hand with a smile that was pure predator. "Ms. Blake, what a pleasure to finally meet you." Madison's eyes widened as she recognized the name. Everyone in business knew Daniel Sterling. "Mr. Sterling, this is such an honor. I had no idea Premier Investments was connected to Sterling Tech." "Oh, we're connected to many things," Daniel said smoothly. "Please, sit. I think you'll find this conversation very enlightening." It was then that Madison's gaze fell on me, and I watched the recognition dawn on her face. Her perfect composure cracked for just a moment. "I'm sorry," she said slowly, "but don't I know you from somewhere?" Daniel smiled wider. "Ms. Blake, I'd like you to meet my sister, Harper Sterling." The color drained from Madison's face. I could practically see the wheels turning in her mind as she realized what this meant. The waitress she'd slapped, the woman she'd humiliated in front of hundreds, was sitting across from her as the sister of one of the most powerful men in tech. "Your sister?" Madison's voice was barely a whisper. "Yes," Daniel said, his voice friendly but with an underlying threat. "Harper was telling me the most interesting story the other day, about her experience working in customer service, about how some customers can be so unnecessarily cruel." Madison's hands were shaking now. "Mr. Sterling, if I had known—" "Known what?" Daniel interrupted. "If you had known she was my sister, you wouldn't have slapped her? You wouldn't have humiliated her? So it's only wrong to treat people cruelly if they have powerful connections." "That's not what I meant. What did you mean exactly?" Daniel leaned forward, and his friendly mask was starting to slip. "When you struck my sister across the face in front of 200 people? When you told her she was nothing? When you made her question her own worth?" Madison looked desperately between Daniel and me, searching for some way out of this trap. "It was a misunderstanding. I was having a bad day. I never meant—" "Oh, but you did mean it," Daniel said softly. "You meant every word, every gesture, every moment of cruelty. And now, Madison, we're going to talk about consequences." He opened a folder on the table and began laying out photographs and documents. Madison's face went white as she recognized what she was seeing. "These are interesting pictures from your private parties," Daniel said conversationally. "The FBI has such sophisticated cameras these days. And these financial documents showing your tax evasion schemes. And oh, this is my favorite." He held up a recording device. "Audio recordings of you threatening to destroy a model's career because she refused your advances." Madison was hyperventilating now. "This is illegal. You can't have obtained these legally." "Actually, I can. You see, when you build an empire on corruption and cruelty, you leave quite a trail. My investigators are very thorough." "What do you want?" Madison whispered. Daniel looked at me, then back at Madison. "What I want is for you to understand something fundamental. Actions have consequences. You can't go through life treating people like garbage and expect no repercussions." "I'll do anything," Madison pleaded. "Money? I can pay." "This isn't about money," Daniel said coldly. "This is about justice." He picked up his phone and showed Madison the screen. "As we speak, copies of everything in this folder are being sent to the FBI, the IRS, and every major news outlet in the city. Your boutiques will be investigated, your finances audited, and your victims will finally have their voices heard." Madison stood up abruptly, panic in her eyes. "You can't do this. I have lawyers. I have connections." "Had connections," Daniel corrected. Past tense. Because once this information becomes public, once people see who you really are, those connections will disappear faster than you can say reputation management. As if on cue, Madison's phone started buzzing, then buzzing again, and again. She looked at the screen and went even paler. "It seems the story is already breaking," Daniel observed. "Social media moves so quickly these days." Madison sank back into her chair as her phone continued to explode with notifications. I could see the exact moment she realized her world was ending. "Please," she whispered, looking directly at me for the first time with actual recognition of my humanity. "Please, I'm sorry. I'm so sorry." For a moment, I almost felt sorry for her. Almost. But then I remembered the sound of that slap echoing through the restaurant. I remembered the laughter of her friends. I remembered the comments on the viral video from people who thought I deserved to be humiliated. "You're sorry you got caught," I said quietly. "You're sorry you chose the wrong person to bully. But are you sorry for all the other people you've treated the same way? All the workers you've humiliated? All the lives you've damaged for your own amusement?" Madison opened her mouth, but no sound came out. Daniel stood up. "Harper, the choice is yours. We can make this all disappear. Let Madison learn her lesson quietly. Or we can let justice take its course publicly." I looked at Madison Blake, this woman who had seemed so powerful just minutes ago, now trembling and broken. Part of me wanted to show mercy, to be the bigger person, but I thought about all the other service workers who'd probably suffered her cruelty. I thought about the employees in her sweatshops. I thought about the models she'd threatened. "Let justice take its course," I said quietly. Madison let out a sob. "My business, my reputation, everything I've built on the suffering of others," I interrupted, "built on cruelty and exploitation. Maybe it's time for something better to take its place." Over the next hour, we watched Madison Blake's empire crumble in real time. The news broke across every platform simultaneously. The FBI announced their investigation. The IRS released a statement about tax evasion charges. Videos of her private parties leaked online. Models came forward with stories of harassment and threats. But the moment that went most viral was security footage from the restaurant, showing Madison falling to her knees in front of me, begging for mercy that never came. The woman who had slapped me in front of hundreds was now humiliated in front of millions. As Madison finally left the restaurant, escorted by federal agents, Daniel put his arm around my shoulders. "Are you okay?" he asked. I thought about his question seriously. Was I okay? I'd just watched a woman's life get destroyed, even if she deserved it. I'd learned that the independence I'd been seeking was an illusion, that I'd always be protected by my family's power whether I wanted it or not. But I'd also learned something else. "I'm more than okay," I said finally. "I'm free." Free from what? Free from needing to prove myself to people who were never going to respect me anyway. Free from thinking that being kind means accepting cruelty. Free from believing that I have to face the world alone. Daniel smiled. "Welcome back to the family business, little sister." 6 months later, I opened my own restaurant with Daniel's backing. But this time, it wasn't about proving my independence. It was about creating the kind of workplace I'd wished for when I was being treated like nothing. A place where every employee was valued, where kindness was the standard, and where bullies weren't welcome. Madison Blake? Her boutiques closed within a month. She faced federal charges and lost everything. Her friends Sophia and Amber disappeared from social media entirely, their own reputations too damaged by association. Sometimes people ask me if I feel bad about what happened to her. The answer is complicated. I don't take joy in anyone's suffering, but I sleep well knowing that Madison can never again slap a waitress, humiliate a worker, or destroy someone's dignity for her own entertainment. And every time someone shares the video of her begging at my feet, I'm reminded of an important truth. No one is too powerful to face consequences, and everyone deserves to be treated with basic human dignity. That slap changed everything. It ended Madison Blake's reign of cruelty, brought me back to my family, and taught me that sometimes the worst moments in our lives lead to the most important changes. The waitress who got slapped in front of hundreds became the woman who brought a bully to her knees. And honestly, that's a story I'm proud to tell. And that's how one slap changed everything. Sometimes the worst moments in our lives become the catalyst for the most important changes. Madison learned that cruelty always comes with a price, and I learned that family protection isn't weakness, it's strength. If this story of justice served gave you chills, smash that like button and subscribe for more incredible stories of karma in action. Have you ever dealt with workplace bullies? Share your story in the comments below. Remember, no one has the right to humiliate you, and sometimes the people who seem powerless have more strength than you could ever imagine. Until next time, remember that every action has consequences, and kindness will always triumph over cruelty.